Is everything coming together? What do you think of this? Good stuff.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the recent launch of Jalal Mahamede's new book, My Tears Will Calm the Sun, for which you'll be introduced by the manager of Tangerine Books, Antonia Hildebrand, and joined in time by composer, musician, Wilkins. Before we commence, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and of the lands from which people are zooming in on tonight, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Just a little housekeeping before we begin. If everyone could switch their phones to silent, but you can keep them on if you wish to tweet. We're at Avid Reader 4101. Anybody needing the toilet, we're using the inside one tonight, so it's just up the staircase and to your right. The bar looks like most of you have already found it, but it will open again briefly after the event. There'll also be a Q&A after the session, and we ask the person who's answering the questions to briefly repeat them in case they weren't heard in the audience. We're not passing the microphone around too much with COVID at the moment. And it's also for the benefit of the Zoom audience. There'll also be a signing after the event. Copies of the book are available at the counter. For the Zoom audience, you're welcome to ask any questions you may have using the chat box on Zoom. We'll also be pasting a link that you can use to purchase a copy of the book online. We can ask the author to sign that book for you if you call the shop during the event before it's concluded. Format's just a little unusual tonight and very exciting. So instead of a panel conversation, I'll be introducing Antonia Hildebrand to introduce Jalal. Jalal will perform for around 15 minutes before introducing Henry Wilkins and inviting her to join him. We'll speak for a couple of minutes, then she and Jalal will perform some duets for 15 minutes. Then, if time allows, there'll be 10 minutes for an audience Q&A. Once again, due to COVID concerns, if you can make a question brief enough for one of us to remember so we can repeat it. So we've got a very jam-packed schedule tonight, so I'm going to get myself off the stage by introducing the first speaker of the night. Antonia Hildebrand is a novelist, poet, winner of the Marjorie Barnard Award, and manager at Tangerine Books. Her first published short story appeared in Down Images and in Women's Day of Summer Reading, and she's since been widely published in journals, magazines, and anthologies in Australia, as well as Britain and the USA and Ireland. She's reviewed books for the Toronto Chronicle newspaper, contributed to Radio National's British Telegraph program. Many of her short stories have been broadcast by Queensland Storyteller on Radio 4RPH and by Radio 91.3 FM June. She's the author of 8 books, ranging from biography, autobiography, essays, poetry, and short fictions with novels. Her novel The Dark Room was published by Ginadera Press in 2022. Please make her welcome.
Right. Innocent people are sometimes imprisoned, often for lengthy periods. We know this. There are numerous stories about an innocent man serving 10 or 20 years, only to be released when his innocence can no longer be denied. Often it's because someone wrote a book. Jalal has, in a sense, cut out the middleman. He wrote the book himself. When the manuscript of My Tears Will Calm the Sun was brought to my attention via an email from Kina Wilkins, I was interested immediately. And when I read the poems and saw the drawings, I have to admit I flinched. Both were so raw, and what they described was appalling. But Jalal, during his 9 long years in detention, had taught himself to fly, to soar above his circumstances. His book gives a voice to the voiceless, not only to Jalal, but to everyone else in his situation. I note with disgust that the British government is now trying to export refugees to Rwanda. In one of those ironies, Priti Patel, the minister in charge of this monstrous plan, was herself a refugee who fled Kenya as a child with her family. But enough of political madness, the work is what matters. The drawings are stark and demand that you look, even though sometimes you would like to look away. They are unsparing in their depiction of the mental torture of long-term detention on a person who knows they have committed no crime, the illogic being the worst torture of all. All the drawings are compelling, but 2 in particular resonated with me. On page 7, there is a drawing of a huge boot trying to crush an artist. The artist has a brush and is painting the sun and clouds on the sole of the boot that is trying to crush him. On page 46, there is an incredibly powerful image of another huge boot trying to crush a bent human figure. These images made me think of two things. Firstly, George Orwell's description of fascism as a boot stamping on a human face forever. Secondly, the speech the director Steven Soderbergh gave when he received the Academy Award for one of his movies. I don't recall which one, but I will never forget him saying, "I couldn't live without art." I think it's more than likely that Jalal might very well have not lived if he hadn't had art to create. This book saved his sanity and probably his life. It's an important book because it documents part of our history, a shameful part. I have to thank Kina Wilkins for bringing the manuscript to my attention. I also have to thank Marianne Hine, graphic artist extraordinaire, for once more creating a beautiful book. And I'll end by reading my favourite poem from the book. It's called Drop of Rain. I'm a drop of rain. I'm a stranger in this desert. I wander and wonder looking for the river. You hold me in your beautiful hands. You did not allow this drop to fall to the thirsty ground. You will leave me in the river. You will save me from the desert. It's been a long time. I have a thirst to kiss the beach water. You understand what I'm saying? Only your kind heart hears the cry of mine, and it takes me to the shore of freedom. I will always remember you. Remember that if you cross the beach one day, call me. I will visit you with all my being. I love you, Australians, and how hard it is to know that one day I will lose you. And so, without further ado, I will introduce the man himself, Jalal Mahamede, poet, artist, and now a free man.
Such a big day. Thank you, everyone, for attending and everyone attending Zoom. Thank you, avid reader, Tangerine Publish, and Antonia. Thank you to Kina Wilson for coming from Sydney and all of your support. I'm an Ahwazi refugee, a son, a poet, an artist, and hard worker. A friend and survivor of the Australian offshore immigration policy. I'm from the south of Iran, an area known as Ahwaz. The state of Ahwaz is mostly of Arabic ethnicity. Arabic people in Persian Iran are persecuted minority and face daily discrimination. I left Iran in 2013. The offshore policy changed while I was in the boat. When I arrived in Christmas Island, I was 27 years old. After 7 months on Christmas Island, I was transferred to Nauru when I was detained for over 6 years. I was transferred to Brisbane Detention Center a few days after my 34th birthday. I was in detention here in Brisbane for 27 months. Nauru is a tiny island. It's so hot, the ground is covered in stone and rocks. There are many mosquitoes. In order to get basic items like tongs or insect cream, it was a battle. We had no internet and we only had access to a phone 10 minutes per week. We lived in the camp full of plastic tents. We were 45 people in each tent without fan. So hard. The guards who controlled our life were mostly retired military workers.
Take a breath.
It's well documented the abuse we suffered from the guards, from physical abuse, mental abuse, and sexual abuse. We couldn't eat. Each meal time was held in a hot plastic tent with 1,000 people lining up to eat. It was so hot, we had no appetite. In order to access anything or any service, we had to line up in the sun. For many hours. The medical treatment provided by Australian immigration system under Tony Abbott and Scott Morrison was equal to medical torture. We were drugged, neglected, and harmed. I believe this is also well documented. The camp was unsafe in many ways. For example, they used a metal detector and found a bomb buried in the ground from the Second World War next to the family tent. Nauru had high rates of self-harm, suicide attempts, and horrifying effects on children. 12 people have died due to offshore detention. In August 2018, I was walking home with a doctor and I was beaten by a group of local men. My mouth and teeth have been completely damaged. My teeth were broken. My face was beaten and swollen. And my throat and neck were damaged. This attack caused severe mental health problems for me. I had headaches, nightmares, and developed a stutter from the severe trauma. Also, my father in that time died, in September 2019. I quickly became so sick. 1 month later, I was transferred to Australia. My stutter has recovered. However, I live with complex PTSD from my time on Nauru. After six years on Nauru, I was brought to Australia for psychological treatment. I was in health detention for 27 months. I received trauma and torture instead of treatment. the same as normal. In February 2020, at the beginning of COVID, we were being detained in Congo Point. Our sickness was getting worse and worse every day. We felt we would die in the motel. One day, me, Mehdi, and Adnan decided to start a protest. We thought no one knew we were locked up with this situation. We protested every day afternoon for 10 months from our balcony until I was suddenly and aggressively removed at 4 a.m. back to the main Brisbane detention center. Before detention center, I never wrote poetry or created art. I began writing poetry because I was thinking about my father a lot. He was a famous Arabic poet in Ahwaz and highly respected in the area. This skill grew when I realized we can't find a way to our freedom. My art was my personal protest and way to tell the people about the situation. Anything bad that happened, I turned into art and poems. My book is a collection of my experience from these 9 years. We also recorded an album, however, Kina will talk about it. In December 2021, I was released with no support from this government, as well as the gift of my memories of torture. Being released in this way is incredibly difficult. Everything is a battle, and the discrimination often continue. Our housing is unstable. We are so traumatized, it's hard to work, and we are still not giving a safe visa. For example, this past week, I have gone to the dentist to try to fix the extensive damage just on my front tooth. This will cost close to $7,000. I also have been told I need to pay $4,000 for my time in court fighting for my human rights while I was in detention. I applied for my new 6-month bridging visa, and while I was at work, I received an email saying it was rejected. I quickly panicked. I had to leave my job to immediately see a lawyer for help. However, as much as the government was cruel, our community is kind. Our community is so kind and understands us. They have tried a lot to help and support us. Thank you to all of you. What I have learned in these few years is that your experience is not just what has happened to you. It's what you take from it, learn from it, and create from it. Thank you to everyone who helped me create this book. This book doesn't belong to me. It's belong to everyone. We have a responsibility to know what has happened and what continues to happen. To finish, I would like to say what I hope from this country and how this story ends. I have 3 main things I wish to see from this country. 1, A pathway to safety for all of us. After 9 years, we need a pathway to citizenship. Our life is still not safe. We live in fear of making small mistakes, accidentally doing something wrong, and being sent back to detention indefinitely. Mentally and physically, it's so difficult to find a job after we spend almost a decade in a traumatizing environment. And now we are in a new country with very little support. I can see clearly that my friends and I are damaged, and our minds are waiting and expecting only negative things. 2, for this government to be held accountable for its crime against human rights, either with a class action or a royal commission. 3, for those left on Nauru and PNG to be brought to safety in Australia immediately, because they continue to be damaged every day. The torturing to all of us needs to finally end. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kenny Watkins. Kenny Watkins is a pioneering Australian British composer musician. She is a 2-time finalist for the Australian Art Music Awards for Individual Excellence in 2021 and 2018. She's composed over 60 compositions published by Vodafone that are performed internationally, including around the USA, Europe, and Asia, and has 5 charts in the Australian Jazz Record. Her music is characterized by passion for human rights, astronomy, Indigenous culture, and intuitive improvisation. The Morning Herald describes her works as arresting, genre-blurring music of massive breadth and high drama. She's released 9 albums of original music on all streaming platforms, including 4 solo albums, and has performed around Europe and Australia. As an innovative solo artist and leader of cutting-edge ensembles, her playing has been heralded by UK Jazz Journal as a powerhouse player with taste, and by Australian jazz as unconstrained by labels, and is constantly finding new ways to express herself musically. And by Limelight magazine as fine and nuanced playing. Her latest album project was collaborating with the Tangerine refugee poet and artist Jalal Mahamede on an album of spoken poetry set to music. And I've heard some of the sound checks, and even that was amazing. So please make her very welcome.
Hello everyone, thank you for that introduction, Jackie. Yeah, so I just thought I'd talk a little bit about the background to this book and to the album that I made with Jalal last year. So I met Jalal just over 1 year ago, and wow, how much has changed in 12 months. I can hardly believe it, and I do believe a lot of people in this room probably have known him for a while, and I'm sure that a lot of people know a lot about his journey, as has been talked about. So I just want to talk a little bit about how the album came to happen. So around June last year, I was looking through an interesting contemporary libretto for my opera that I was planning to write, and I came across his work in a Facebook group, and I messaged him asking if I could use it for the project. He said yes. And over the next few months, we got to know each other on Facebook video from his prison cell at Brisbane Immigration Transit Accommodation, known as VITA. And I was absolutely horrified at what I heard. I have zero background in psychology, zero background in social work. I am a middle-class white person with an Australian passport, and I was absolutely horrified at everything he'd been through, the 6 years on Nauru. One day it will be called a crime against humanity. One day it will be called concentration camps. One day people will be held accountable for what happened there. And it will be compared to Auschwitz. It will be compared to the Holocaust. And there have been many suicides. Since Jalal, I have got to know quite a number of refugees, and many of them, the majority have had multiple suicide attempts. And it's basically an experiment in how badly you can treat human beings and how they will respond. And so I was, after just even a couple of weeks, I think I was crying pretty much every day. Jalal was crying, we were crying together frequently. And eventually I kind of got used to it. And then all the other refugees I've met since then, it was like, oh yeah, suicide attempts. Oh yeah, all this bit. I mean, come on, how is that normal? You know, and now it's a normal thing. And I know everyone here who's got to know the situation, yeah, it's quite normal. But you know, that's obviously horrific that is normal. And Australia treats refugees the worst in the world, as most of us know. So, having got to know, it actually coincided with the Sydney lockdown. So eventually I realised that even if I did write an opera, it was probably unlikely to be performed in the near future because everything was in strict lockdown. So I thought, okay, how can we turn this into a project that is likely to kind of get some traction in the near future? So I thought, well, he has quite a dramatic, naturally kind of theatrical voice. So I thought, well, that could work with live music. So we experimented with his speaking and my music. And over time, the project developed into a whole album. So that's 12 tracks of his spoken poetry set to music. And eventually I involved more and more people because I thought the more people I involve in this project, the more likely it is that more people are going to know about it. So by the end of about 2-3 months, we had 19 people involved from all over Australia, including my children and my neighbours' children, and many professional musicians from all over Australia. So yeah, so basically by the end of those few months, Jalal had met my 7-year-old twins, my partner Tully, my dog. He'd met pretty much everyone, and he was kind of like a household name. We were talking pretty much every day. So then, as Sydney opened up, I decided to launch the album. So I've launched 9 albums, and I know it's important to have a big launch. So we launched it at Lazybones in Sydney. We had a sold-out crowd, 120 people. Dr. Graham Tom from Amnesty International spoke at the launch. Everybody there was given a piece of paper to write to the minister, and we got many letters direct to the minister. We got lots of great media attention from ABC Radio, Sydney Morning Herald, many music magazines like Limelight magazine, Resonate magazine. Anyway, we were just pumping the media, and amazingly, 2 weeks after the album launch, he was released, which no one expected. It was a massive shock to everybody. But amazingly, yeah, that seems to be how this kind of stuff works. The ones that get a little bit more media attention in a positive way seem to work quite well for them. So then after that, the album got lots of really super positive reviews from all over the world. Doobie Doobie Doo in New York, which is a really big music magazine, gave it a fantastic review. Sydney Morning Herald gave it a fantastic review. Songlines UK gave it a fantastic review. So that's kind of how the album came about. We have CDs of the album available in the shop here at Avid Reader, which is going to be available. And it's also on Spotify and Bandcamp, iTunes, YouTube, you name it, it's out there. So yeah, like I said, it's 19 musicians from all over Australia to Jalal's spoken poetry. Now we recorded that poetry via Zoom very slowly over many months. So well, probably like altogether, probably about six weeks actually altogether, probably just recorded it in kind of little bits and I curated it. So please feel free to check it out on YouTube, Spotify, etc. We're also going to perform a couple of pieces from that. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is, so during this project, what I noticed as I looked at his work on Instagram and Facebook is that he's got a really distinctive style. So obviously for me as a musician composer, I'm always looking for the sound and the words. That was what I was looking for at the time. But eventually I started realizing, hang on, his drawings are beautiful. I know he knew a lot of people. I couldn't believe why no one had helped him kind of get to the next level yet. But basically I just kind of put all of this stuff together in a PDF, and then I was emailing the PDF. I think it was about 30, 40 pages, something like that. Just initially, I just thought I'll just do 10 of his poems, 10 of his pictures, just like a little snapshot of what he does, the best ones. And I emailed them to many publishers all over Australia. And, inevitably, as anyone knows who's in the arts, it's very hard to get a response. People take a long time to get back to you. There's many rejections. This is completely normal. And I know this, and anyone in the arts knows this. So anyway, then I talked to a friend of mine in England called Marjorie Barnard, and he happened to be a writer for UK Jazz Journal, and he's reviewed my work many times, and he's very enthusiastic about my work. And he said, have you tried Antonia Hildebrand? Oh, because I think she's quite sympathetic. And I emailed her, and yeah, the rest is history, as they say. So yeah, I just collected stuff from Instagram and Facebook, and it's a very, very beautiful book. So I want to say a big thank you to Antonia Hildebrand. I want to say a big thank you to Marianne Hine, who did a beautiful, beautiful job, not only the book, but also the album liner notes, which are also incredibly beautiful. And she did that all for free. So thank you so much to Marianne Hine, so much to Antonia Hildebrand. And so the other thing I wanted to talk about is generally when I collaborate with somebody, what I look for is, number one is talent. And number two is like, what is the story behind the talent? And what I find in Jalal's work is that he has both. He has an important story to tell. He has a clear, distinctive style, which has organically developed. Now, what I find in my music and my journey over 25 years as a professional musician and composer is that oftentimes when I'm at my lowest, when I've had something really terrible happen, that's when the best stuff comes out, right? And I think that's what's happened with Jalal. So a lot of really, really beautiful, beautiful material has come out, as if like an epiphany, as if it's like an epiphany. This is like some kind of clarity as to what that moment actually shows about life, about that situation. And I think the best art is truth. I think at the end of the day, everyone can kind of feel in their gut when art is truth. That's what I always look for, is truth. And this is what I strive for in my music. When I compose, when I improvise, when I play music, I strive for truth. So I'm always looking for collaborators that can express truth. And so what I found in his work was truth and talent and a great story. And in the case of Jalal, I believe he's a real star talent, and the talent has emerged through this horrific experience, and his story is one that all Australians need to hear. And I guess what we do next is me and Jalal are going to perform some of the duets from the album. Thank you. So the first one is Set Me Free. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I do. This is we're just gonna do the piano.
of people, Australian people, they stayed in front of us and fighting for us. And suddenly, one guy, he came and starts to shouting and saying bad word to them. And he started to shouting, they have to come back to their country. They are terrorists. And I'm back to home and write this book. Everyone's voices are taken. Everyone breathes, smells. It seems that the sound are heard from the depths of the deep well. All eyes are on the black galaxy. It seems that the heads are separated from the bodies and they have been thrown away. They have rolled in the dust and mud. The hands are separated and tied in a chain of injustice. And each foot has chosen a different path to walk. The body is numb and doesn't solve anything. All the screams hit the wall and they hit our mouth like a fist. This is not fantasy. This is reality. And the day you came, you made a self with your hand for this tired heart. You polish my voice with your voice. You caress my hands. You give breath to this nearly dead body. And you invite me to gaze from the darkness of the galaxy to the bright and warm lantern of your heart. I know that's all of me still in prison, and the way to reach you is through a wall of hatred of those who lives in your neighborhood. But you will save this body as well. the time I give up from everything, everyone, even myself, even the God. Like I hate everything. I couldn't eat because I don't feel hungry. 5 days. And these 5 days, I wrote these poems. Because I think all of us need sometimes break down. And then you want success in your life. My defeat. My defeat. Without you, I'm a soulless body. I wither. Without you, I'm a thorn in the desert. The loneliest mountain in the world. My defeat. I will not replace you with all the victories of the world. Sitting on the throne is not victory. It's the slavery of time. My defeat is a sign of the boiling heat of the blood in veins. My defeat is ripe fruit falling to the ground. It's waiting for a passerby to take it. My defeat speak about my endless patience. My defeat speak boldly and courageously of the pain of storm and the thirsty desert, and of the great mountain that cries in the silence and burns slowly at night. My defeat means surviving forever, laughing in the fire. My defeat is a violation of the law of injustice, teaching my true self and self-awareness. The garden. I look into deep depths of my being. My whole body is shaking. The roots have turned into trees, and the trees have blossomed. But why do flowers turn black? The branches whisper the song of sorrow in my brain, and they show me their hatred of peace. It has if their place is sorrow. My body no longer has space for these roots and foliage. I remember one day there was a gardener planting these leaves. The garden also regrets. Of course, he was right. Now I stay with dark forest. Where are you? I call you from the depths of my being. Oh Lord, I'm losing my mind. I love my tears as much as my laughter. I love my tears as much as my laughter. I need my tears and they ease my pain. And with my tears, I create a glorious symbol of strength and stability. As the sea dries up and joins the clouds. To descend on the great mountain and free it from its heavy burden of sorrow. And return to the sea again. So will the sunrise and the sound of beautiful birds reverberates over the sea. I love my tears as much as my laughter. I need my tears as much as I need my smile. Like autumn gathering leaves, the leaves celebrate and dance with the wind and joins, and I hug the leaves like I hug my desire and sleep. And I will kiss tomorrow and open my eyes to the possibility of achieving my dreams. I love my tears as much as my laughter. I love my tears as much as my laughter. I like to have hunger and love and beauty deep in my inner self. I love witnessing the signs of regret of those who refuse to forget their dreams. And I will play an intro song with them. I love my tears as much as my laughter. To purify my soul and attain awareness, and I love my laughter because it's proof my existence. I love my tears as much as my laughter. They connected to achieving a smile. My tears are for my laughter of yesterday. I love my tears. I know I will calm the sun with them and infuse spring and joy to the earth. I love my tears as much as my laughter. Thank you.
Very close to the end of the evening now, but I'll hand over to you to see last words. We're obviously completely blowing through audience Q&A time, but who could possibly stop that beautiful music? So there's a way around it, of course. You can ask your questions at the signing table. So I would hope you also ask for your CDs to be signed after that incredible performance as well. When we're finished, we'll maybe sneak you out first before everyone follows, but I'm going to stop now and give you the last word, other than saying, please give them both an amazing round of applause.
Thank you so much.
You also heard But you are also allowed to not say anything. You can go and get a drink and sign some books.
Aha, okay.
I just think you might want to say goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Like, I want to say, end of the detention, like before I released, I was like a few months later, I was ready to give up, but I start to have a connection with Australian people, and really now I forget my family, you know, like I forget my family. Like I feel this is my home, and my family here, like my brothers, my sister, my best friends. I see them here, better than them, even better than my mom and dad, you know. True. I want to say from like clearly and from the deep of my soul, I want to say I love you, because I see like you don't like when I came out, how I see love from these people, like two people. I was shocked. I would say, like, do you have like detention in this country? I can't believe it. I can't believe like that situation in Australia happened. Like, I'm really sorry about the past government, what they done to us, and they break the people names, Australian names. And thank you for tonight. It gives me a lot of love and support, and I hope the people who in PNG and Naro, because I feel them, you know, I feel them how they everyday damage and war getting worse, and I feel they are dying now. Like we need to talk about them. We need to bring them some safe place, you know, and yeah. Thank you so much. Ooh.